In this video, we're going to have an in-depth conversation about the Chiefs offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, and try to answer questions about why he is yet to have a head coaching job after 15 interviews. Is it Bieniemy's controversial past? Is it because Andy Reid is the offensive genius in Kansas City? And if that's the case, why did Matt Nagy and Doug Pederson get a shot at a head coaching position and Eric Bieniemy has not? So we're going to talk about all that and much freaking more. But first, how about those? What's up, guys? My name is Cole, and I do daily news about the Kansas City Chiefs, so make sure to sub if you're new, hit that like button, all that good stuff, and let's get into this video. It's going to be a different one today. This is episode 1 of what I'm coining the How About Those Chiefs podcast, where we're going to talk in depth about all things Kansas City Chiefs and big picture NFL news, and today I'm going to have a conversation with a good friend of mine who is a contributor for Arrowhead Pride about Eric Bieniemy and all things surrounding him. So without further ado, let's get into this interview. What's up, guys? My name is Cole. You know the deal. We're here with a good buddy of mine, Rece Nichols. We've been friends for many years through the hip-hop music scene. This guy covers Chiefs news with Arrowhead Pride. He'll fill you in on that, but he's a guy that I wanted to pull in here and have a genuine fireside chat about Eric Bieniemy and some things around him. And I just found, Rece, I just think you're a good dude. You know your stuff, and you just got a solid head on your shoulders. So I feel like you'd be a really good guy to talk to about this. So,
yeah, man, definitely, man. Appreciate you having me, man. Love what you're doing out there. You know, how about those Chiefs, man? Keep it rolling, man. But yeah, appreciate you having me here. As he said, man, my name is Rece Nichols. You'll see me under my writing name when it comes to Arrowhead Pride, of course, Maurice Elston. I give my real name when I went as an author, so you'll see that. But as an artist, when it came to the music, Rece Nichols, man. But yeah. Excited, man, to jump in and talk about it, man.
Maurice Elston. That's just a smart name. Holy smokes. That's just
official. Like that's when I got to get official with it.
Holy smokes. Well, cool, man. Well, what I want to talk about is just Eric Bieniemy. I cover the Chiefs all day, every day, pretty much, and I see a lot of comments about EB, some good, some bad. And so I was like, I just want to talk about this, have a genuine conversation. I can kind of give you just like my stance on him a little bit, and just kind of where I see things, and then maybe we could just kind of dialogue from there. And then I do have a few questions to ask as well. As far as EB, I'm pretty neutral on EB. Like, I think he's a good coach, good morale. I like his passion. Some people seem upset that he possibly is getting into it with players, but I'm like, the people that get upset by that, I'm like, well, have you ever played a professional sport, or not even a professional sport? Have you ever played a sport just where two guys take things so seriously, and especially when you do it for a living now? You've got the thing that kind of spawned this was the recent spat, quote unquote, with Mahomes right before halftime of the Colts game. And so that kind of spawned some things, but it's like EB said it in his presser, Mahomes just wants to win. Andy Reid and Mahomes kind of played the situation down like, yo, Mahomes was like, dude, we talk all the time. We're chill. We just were talking in that moment. I want to go score every chance I get. Andy Reid says he wants to basically step on people's necks, finishing move every play. So this is what kind of spawned like this whole conversation and thought, because I see comments back and forth on both sides. Some people defending, some people throwing him under the bus. And my kind of stance on him is, I'm just not sure. Even though I like him, I'm just not sure how much authority control he assumes over the offense when you look at Andy Reid and his resume as an offensive-minded head coach. Obviously, EB, former NFL player, been a running backs coach. I would assume he definitely has input, obviously, as an OC. Probably has even more input on running plays. But if you want to just give me your thoughts just overall on him and where you see him, I'd love to hear your side.
The way they try to make it, Andy Reid says he controls 51% of the offense, EB 49. So like giving him authority in a sense to override anything that is said. Most likely that's probably more around the 70-30-ish of Andy Reid, calling plays. And it seems like people like to attest kind of like, oh, when the offense is running good and firing on all cylinders, that must be Andy Reid calling the plays. And when the offense is struggling a little bit, Eric Bieniemy must be calling the plays. Truth of the matter, none of us know when they switch it off or when they do have it. I think EB is just like a people's coach. Like, my knock on him has always been like I never hear him like in press conferences and stuff like that really be able to talk X's and O's. Like he's always kind of like that motivational guy that says something motivational or like, yeah, we got to get it right. Every man got to step up to the plate. But it's like I beginning to wonder, like, I'm sure he does understand the ins and outs of the offense because no way you're an offensive coordinator in the NFL and don't, right? But
Right.
the whole spatting and all that type of stuff, if you play sports of any level, at some point you probably got into it or did not agree with the direction of your coach. I mean, I done played on the high school level, even when, on scholarships and played at the college level. So it's like, and me and my coaches didn't always get along. And I'm like, every play, I'm telling them, I'm open. Like, right? Like, I don't care if I'm covered, I'm open. Give me the ball, right? And you have those type of discussions when, Mahomes wants to go score. EB made the decision to, take the run and then take the knee and go to halftime. And it stemmed from in the playoff game too, when the field goal was on the line and we chose to throw that play call to Tyreek Hill and got tackled short of the end zone. EB wanted to kick the field goal and take the points. In hindsight, we probably should have did what EB was thinking, right? And so they say the original spat came from that and all that. So coaches are going to get into it with players. And when you're in the spotlight, it's going to get caught on camera at some point. Grown men disagree. We disagree with family members all the time. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But, yeah, that's kind of my take on it. They're going to get into it. They probably got into it more than what we've seen, but it's just part of the game.
That offseason report, I'm sure you saw it. It was unfounded. But that report that came out said that Mahomes and EB got into a screaming match at halftime. But, like, I wouldn't doubt that it happened, but
right.
For context, I played soccer for 10 years, and I've gotten into arguments with my coach on the sideline and had to run laps during a game. I mean, it's just I'm a passionate person, and these guys are way more, so it happens. So I have a couple questions here that we can just kind of bunny hop on because here's something that is often talked about: EB interviewing for 15 head coaching jobs and not landing one. Do you think it was because of the color of his skin for all of them? Do you think there's other factors at play? I mean, I'm a little bit in the camp of like, I am sure skin color played a role in some of them. Has to.
Right.
But all 15?
No.
What do you think?
I think has it played a role? Probably absolutely. Because some people are probably honestly just interviewing him to satisfy the Rodney rule, right? So I'm sure it's teams that brought him in there just to say, hey, here's our black person that we interviewed and moved on. But I don't believe that for all 15 teams. Like, I believe that there is something that he's probably lacking that people are looking for in a coach that he doesn't. Because when you come from the type of offensive success that the Chiefs have had and him being the offensive coordinator, by this time you'd have thought like he would have got a shot somewhere. Is he deserving of a shot? I mean, I think that's subjective to, whatever somebody is looking for. Because again, like I said, in his pressers, he's very candid. I don't know when you get behind doors and you say, if you become the head coach, what's your vision for this offense? What's your vision for this team? How well does he deliver that? From press conferences and stuff like that, I can't honestly sit here and say that I believe that he delivers that in such a way that's going to wow somebody, right? So I think it's more than just skin color. Has skin color probably played a part in some of the instances? Absolutely. I would never think that it didn't. But in all 15, I think, in a sense, you're pulling a race card for everything if you just think that all 15 teams turned him down because he was black. I don't believe that at all.
Right. I was just looking at some stats, and I don't know this year, but I think 2018, 2019, 2020, there were only 3 black head coaches. I think 2018 and 2015 or somewhere around there was like 8. So it's definitely been a minority, but it has fluctuated a little bit up and down. Dude, I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan, by the way. I think he's awesome.
Yeah. I think Mike Tomlin's an excellent coach.
Yeah. Well, some points that people also would bring up is, and we don't have to like dive into the specifics here, but some people say, well, it could very well be his controversial past. I'm sure you know a little bit of some of his past stuff just from back in the day. Do you think that could play a role a little bit, or is that so long ago and he's showed so many years of like head on straight kind of a thing that you think that's completely irrelevant? Because I would think it's pretty irrelevant at this point, personally.
I think it'll be irrelevant for some, and then for some, it's like, some people just, no matter if it's in the past or not, they're not gonna let it go. They're gonna hold all of that against you. And then for some, you hear about the controversial past, and then you see kind of the headlines to come out about the arc, and then you see him on national TV getting to with a star quarterback. You start to be like, is it really past, or is this something that's still prevalent? You hear the stories. You hear Jamal Charles come out and say, hey, this guy's great. He's a leader. If he wasn't, Andy Reid wouldn't have him around. But then you hear LaShawn McCoy come out and be like, hey, he's terrible with people. He's not great in the locker room. And you don't know if it's because LaShawn McCoy didn't get the touches he wanted, or if Jamal Charles just, had success, so he's testing it to that. I think, it's hard to outrun your past. That's just the facts of the matter. Like, some people are going to take it into consideration no matter what you do or how long ago. And then any small thing can remind them of that and have them thinking like, oh, that still must be prevalent. That still must be who he is. So it's probably affecting them some, I'm sure. But like, because when you got a big name like Mahomes, and then you're caught getting into it with him, that can easily turn the owner or GM off. Like, hey, I don't want my star quarterback feathers ruffled by anybody, so. But I think it plays a part. How big of a part, who knows?
I heard an interesting point recently. There's been multiple examples of like Tom Brady getting into it with coaches, Peyton Manning getting into it with coaches. Like, there's multiple throughout the years. And in comparison to some of those examples, I think, at least from what we saw a halftime Colts game, that was a pretty mild exchange overall. I would think.
Absolutely.
You probably agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it was blown out, but I think it was blown out just because of the pass. You look at his pass, and that makes them blow every proportion out. You look at the article, whether it's totally true, some truth, or no truth at all, it's in people's minds now. So every time a situation comes up where EB and got into it with somebody, that article is going to play in people's head like, the article must be true. There it go again, right? Like, so people going to test. Then the fact that you haven't seen necessarily Mahomes get into it with an Andy Reid, or you haven't seen a player get into it with an Andy Reid. So then it's like, okay, if it's the player, then you will see this player getting into it with other coaches. If no players getting into it with other coaches, but every time it seems like somebody's getting into it, EB is involved, it might be some validity there at some point.
There's been examples brought up in the past, like we've seen Travis Kelce get into it with EB. But at the same time, Kelce has praised EB multiple times. Even I think that same game where they got into it, he actually went back and apologized. And we don't know what they really got into it for, but they bring, there's other past examples there. But yeah, you're right. I don't see that happening with Coach Reid. Now, you could probably find something, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
And Coach Reid probably just has a better way of talking.
I think
to
he's more
people,
chill.
And he's more chill, and in a sense, probably a little bit more respected. So if Andy Reid says something, you just take it for what it is, kind of type of thing. And again, you can tell EB is a passionate person, and you can tell he doesn't hold back what he's going to say or what he's going to feel. He's going to say it. And in your passionate moment, and you say something to somebody else that's in a passionate moment, tempers can easily flare, right? Definitely when things, nobody's complaining when everything's going good. It's when things go bad that some cool heads not so cool no more. So yeah.
What do you think about? I've heard this said before. Andy Reid is loyal a bit to a fault. So I think it was 1999 was Coach Reid's first year with the Eagles. I believe head coaching. EB was the running back, not starting, but he was on the team. And Andy Reid, just over the years, he loves to take people in, kind of raise them up. But a question that I had, do you think Andy Reid is a bit loyal to a fault here? Like, if EB, for whatever reason, isn't living up to expectations, do you think he's a bit loyal to a fault there at any level with EB?
I hear people always use that, that phrase, loyal to a fault. I don't believe, nothing wrong with being loyal to your people. Like, he's, Andy Reid has put multiple people in positions to reach the height of their careers. And I think he's just trying to do the same for EB. Like, that's why I said it's probably like 70-30 on the play calling type of thing, but it looks better on the resume and sounds better when Andy Reid can come out and say, hey, it's 51-49. It makes it look better for EB when you give him that type of stuff, you know. So long as loyalty doesn't, in a sense, get in the way of winning, and I haven't seen that happen. Like, I don't feel like Eric Bieniemy is the cause of a second half meltdown last year in the AFC Championship. Like, I don't feel like Eric Bieniemy cost us the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, so loyalty to a fault to me is if loyalty to somebody starts costing you games and costs you a big situation. I don't see that happening. So I feel like Eric Bieniemy has put in the time, and he feels like Eric Bieniemy deserves a head coaching job. So I think he's just trying to do what he feels is best to get somebody under them a head coaching job.
Have you heard Chris Sims talking about the game on Sunday?
What'd he say?
Somebody asked him before game who's calling the Chiefs' plays. And he said, well, this year, for Eric Bieniemy's been calling the plays. I mean, from all that he knows. Then he said as he watched the game, just specifically talking Sunday Night Football against the who do we play? I'm blanking.
The Bucs, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Against the Bucs, yeah. He was watching Sunday night's game against the Bucs, and he's like, I think Andy Reid is calling the plays. There was a clip or two of Andy Reid on the sideline talking behind, hiding his mouth talking. This was the thought, I think, behind all this. EB was calling the plays. It kind of stalled during the Colts game, so Andy Reid, who has been known to take over the play calling for, high-pressure situations, close games, 2-minute drills, stuff like that. The thought is, well, perhaps the offense stalled a little bit during the Colts game. He kind of took the reins to right the ship a little bit during the game against the Bucs. What do you think? Any thoughts on that?
I honestly think they all have input. I think they're all everybody's in the helmet, in the ear, and saying, yeah, because even when EB calls it, Andy Reid has that right to be like, nah, let's go this direction, right? Mm-hmm. I felt, just because of the type of play calling that I seen and stuff like that, that it looked more Andy Reid-ish on Sunday night than it did.
It was kind of fire,
season I've seen Mahomes sit with Matt Nagy, because I think that guy gave him like the quarterback type, assistant coach type title. So he's been sitting with Matt Nagy a lot more this year, because I feel like Matt Nagy probably understands the quarterback position a little bit more than EB, which is not a knock on EB. That's okay, right? You got some defensive coaches that, like Bruce Arians, didn't touch the offense. He left that all to Brian Leftwich when he was head coach of the Bucs. So it looked more Andy Reid-ish just because EB doesn't come across as the flash, right? So when you start seeing some of the type of plays, the point this way, quarterback sneak by the tight end, and all that type of stuff, that just has more of an Andy Reid-ish feel. EB has more of that feel. If it's 3rd and 1, we're gonna run it straight up the middle type of mentality that he comes across with. So I would probably agree with Chris Sims, and Chris Sims is saying that, or was it Phil Sims? One of them Sims. Well, if he's saying that, I feel like he probably has some insight, right? Somebody probably had a right to say that, because he probably knew a little something.
And he's not a big. I don't see Chris Sims like a big clickbait guy, like just saying stuff for views. And I feel like he's a pretty reputable person, which is why I found that clip pretty interesting. I have another question here that I see a lot, actually, and I'm just curious, just your off the top thoughts. So some people will say, in regards to, Eric Bieniemy not getting a head coaching job yet after these interviews, the thought is, well, if it's Andy Reid, that's the true offensive genius, what about Doug Peterson? What about Matt Nagy? They went on to be able to get head coaching jobs after being OCs under Reid. So do you have any thoughts on that? Just in that mindset, that thought process?
I think Andy Reid is the mastermind, and I think that's the reason why you can lose a Doug Peterson, you can lose a Matt Nagy, and bring in an EB, and the offense doesn't lose any steam, right? The offense was successful when all of them went on. And if we've been honest, like, definitely if we take Matt Nagy, he went on and didn't have any success without Andy, right? That's the reason he's back. Doug Peterson found success for 1 year, and then it all went downhill. He's finding a little bit of success and looking good so far in Jacksonville. So I think Matt Nagy, Doug Peterson, both are excellent coaches. But it's the Andy Reid show, right? Like, no matter who's that offensive coordinator, it's going to be Andy Reid. That Andy Reid offense is going to be successful. You've almost never seen it not be. No matter if it was Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith, Chad Henne, Donovan McNabb, no matter if it was a Tyreek Hill, Jeremy Maclin, T.O., like no matter who, Dwayne Bowe, no matter what, he's found success on offense. So I think it's been clear that is him, and he uses other people and bring whatever they good to the table. And because the offense and they got an offense coordinator title, people thinking like, oh, if we get them, we can recreate what Andy brought to the Eagles, what Andy brought to the Chiefs, and it hasn't really happened that way, right? And in a sense, that may be the hesitation too on some with EB. They may be looking at it like, hey, all these other coaches that came from the Andy Reid tree, none of them have replicated what Andy has been able to do. Maybe it's all Andy and not his coaches, and maybe people are starting to see that, and they kind of hesitant now. Like, that could be one of the things as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought that I hadn't actually considered before until we've just been dialoguing about it. So, yeah, very interesting there.
Yeah, I would wonder, like, my main concern is, like, how does EB interview? Because interview is everything. Like, maybe he ain't – because I've known some people in just life in general who was very good at their job but sucked interviewing. In the interviewing, they was terrible. And it's like, man, if I didn't know that you was good at your job and just went based off your interview, I wouldn't hire you, right? So, like, it's literally people out there. Maybe he's not a great interviewer. Maybe he doesn't have vision. And when you sit down there and talk to him about vision about the team, he's like, you don't have nothing. Like, so you just never know in these situations, man.
That's interesting. I think at the end of the day, we may never really know, but after 15 interviews, there's got to be a couple things there, a couple question marks. Could be some stuff we've talked about. They've seen OCs in the past under Andy Reid not do well. Maybe he doesn't interview well. Maybe it's the past stuff. Maybe it's a combination of everything. And then some of it, not all 15, but some of it has to be the Rooney Rule, right?
Yeah.
They're bringing him in and to interview him and kind of to check that box. Now, I don't think that's every team.
But some of it is definitely, Right. And I honestly think this is his last chance. I really I feel this offseason coming up is his last chance. Like, if he don't get it this year, I think his best bet is really to go down and try something head coaching on the college ranks, build his resume there as a head coach for college, and then take a step back in towards the NFL and see if he can get it that way. Because if he don't get it this offseason, I really feel like it's time for the Chiefs to move on from the whole story headline of it and everything like that and get a fresh start. I really like to see them bring a young offensive coordinator in here to mix some of Andy Reid's mindset and innovation with some of these young blood, and it can really take it to the next level is how I see. But I really think this is EB's last chance for quite a while. If he don't get it this year, I think he needs to go down to the college ranks.
Yeah, I've also seen just people saying, what if he just kind of even laterally moves potentially to a different team just to get quote unquote out from Andy Reid's shadow. And then I hear the counter there. Well, Doug Peterson and Matt Nagy didn't have to do that to get an opportunity. I get it. But yeah, I thought about college ranks too for him. I thought that might be good. So they signed him to a 1-year deal. So we'll definitely have to see. I've seen what people are thinking already with Matt Nagy being there. Matt Nagy will probably be the OC. But dude, I kind of hope, I like what you said about somebody young. I mean, look at the young coaches in the NFL today and just how creative they're able to be. Look at the Dolphins right now, the Niners, the Rams. Just what you said, a young guy kind of has just new mind and new thoughts based on today's current game. Mix that with Andy, who's been there for a while. I think that would be a recipe for
success
some good
right there,
stuff.
man. And I think if they did that, that's what I was gonna say. I think if they did that, I think Chiefs have to start looking. Andy Reid's getting up there, right? And I mean, as long as he has Pat, he might be trying to stick, but he made this aside. Definitely, if they win another Super Bowl or two, like, hey, this is it. So I think they need to be trying to bring somebody in there they can groom in a sense to say, hey, stick around here, and when Andy decides to walk away, you're the guy, right? So that's kind of thinking just where is that.
I know we can't go back, but I kind of wish in an alternate reality Kafka was able to stay around.
What I wanted.
I liked him.
I wanted him to be the offensive coordinator. I really did. I was hoping EB got hired and they'd have pulled him up to offensive coordinator. That's really what I wanted.
And that's kind of what I see right now. I think from what I understand, again, I'm not there behind the scenes, but at some point, I think Kafka was kind of working with Mahomes and Coach Reed on the passing specific stuff, and then EB was working with them on the running specific stuff. And so I wonder if Nagy kind of stepped into that role, which makes me a little bit fearful that he's going to be the OC next year. Now, will it be the end of the world? No, not as long as Andy Reid's there. But I would, just what you said, would love somebody new in the mix. That would be nice.
I would love to get somebody new in the mix. It wouldn't be the end of the world if it ended up being Matt Nagy. Heck, we won and had success with him, so it's not like we can't find the success. And again, at the end of the day, it's the Andy Reid show. But I would love for somebody young to get in there and make it happen.
That's fire, man. Yeah, I agree. Do you have any other thoughts on the subject before?
No, man. I just think, man, like, does race have something to do with it? Play a part in it? Absolutely. But I'm not going to play the full race card and say the reason why he missed out on 15 chances was because he was black. I really don't feel like that. I feel like it's some other stuff there that we just don't know. And may never know, but I don't think it's all the race card that everybody's trying to pull. That plays a part in some of it, but not all of it.
I dig the balanced approach. That's kind of where I land as well. I was grateful to have the convo with you because I knew we never talked about any of this prior, but I just was like, this will be a great conversation just based on just being friends for years. And I was like, I've always had good convos with you, so I just appreciate your time. Before we get out of here, can you want to plug any of your socials or where people can find you, your work, or anything like that?
Absolutely. Y'all can follow me basically on everything. It's the same thing. Rece Nichols, that's REC. And then Nichols like the coin, but with a Z on the end instead of a S. So Nichols with a Z on the end. I'm that on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Arrowheadpride.com is where you can find like the articles and stuff that I write, and a host of other Chiefs articles, one of the greatest sites out there for Chiefs news. So yeah, check me out.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you enjoy the interview? What were some things that stood out? Do you have any counterpoints, counter arguments, things you want to bring up? Let me know all that in the comments down below, and let's fight about it down there per usual. This was my first stab at a podcast, so it'll get better over time. I'll get better at answering questions and being more engaging. But yeah, that was my first time. So there you have it. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?